Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Downballot podcast. The show's live on Twitch. Check out twitch.tv/EchoplexMedia. We're live basically 7 nights a week there. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you join the Now space. Also join our Discord at discord.me/Echoplex. Enjoy the show.
At some point, we are going to have to do a whole show about how good this show sounds.
Hey everybody, welcome to Downballot. Welcome podcast listeners. This is also a live show. We do this live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific right here on Twitch, twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. I'm your host, Producer Dave, and you can find me damn near anywhere.
And this is the Councilman. You can find me at THE_Councilman. I hope I'm coming through well this week, Producer Dave.
You sound fantastic.
That's fabulous. How's the camera looking? I'm trying the new webcam out tonight.
Yeah, the color's better.
Fabulous. How's it going? So you can see me in my real whiteness, everyone. So
you were a little yellow last week.
Yeah, it is the desk light and then the light in the room are a little yellow, but I think this is a little more natural to who I am, so you can see me in all my starkness. That's why I grow the beard, so I can look a little bit more distinguished and not so white, but
not so yellow.
Not so yellow. Anyway, good to see you as always, producer Dave. Thanks, viewer, for tuning in on the Twitch, and to everyone in the chat. Welcome. Going to be saucy tonight. We have a bunch of, I think, very spicy clips for you. Thank you, producer Dave, for pulling together many of the clips for this week's show. I think we're going to have a fun time. And we've even got some recall action going on. So that'll be fun. Again, it's like weekly and mixed with a DUI. Cheers. So please head over to echoplexmedia.com to find out more about all of us and all the fabulous shows, and definitely tune in later. Stick around after Downballot for local love, local music, and all sorts of shenanigans. Producer Dave, anything special on the agenda for this evening?
No, just that we made one of them recurring weekly Facebook events that we're going to push the video to try to draw in the local music crowd. We've tried everything.
Facebook Live, and all right. Well, I'll definitely... that's an easy way for me to tune in. I can just open my phone, right, and tune in.
Well, you can do that on Twitch too. But.
That's true. For some reason, like Twitch keeps like making me log in, and then when I try to use my old password, it's like, no, this is not the password anymore. You have to change your password. And then I try to put in all these passwords, different variations on the variations of passwords that I have, right? Trying all sorts of different combinations, and it's like, no, that's not strong enough. That's not strong enough. We suggest this, and it's like the big gobbledygook stream. And I'm like, okay, I guess I could save that somewhere, like in my whatever, to remember it, but it just doesn't seem right. So long story short, I don't go on my Twitch app as much as I should on my phone. But for some reason on the desktop, it works fine. I can log in and it's no problem.
You seem like the kind of guy who would use a password manager.
I did at one point. I just it was through work, and then I lost that job, and I never really picked it up again, right? So I just have a really good memory. I'm one of those guys that remembered, like you're old enough, producer Dave, to remember. Like I used to remember everyone's number back in the day, like to page people even, right? You had to remember their 10-digit pager number, right? So I remembered everyone's number. I had a Rolodex in my head. And now it's like I could probably tell you my mom's number, maybe. I hope my wife's number. That's probably it. I definitely don't know your number off the top of my head. That's for sure. I just go producer Dave, call.
So we have like a corporate account for LastPass. So get yourself LastPass, and we'll let me know let me know what email address you used for it or whatever, and I'll attach it to our account so that it unlocks all the features.
I'm gonna make a note. I've got a notepad now for during the show, so I can make notes during the clips about things I want to talk about, so I'm not so scatterbrained. So I'm gonna make a note. LastPass.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that. Okay, last.
We also have a shared directory with some kind of shared assets that I don't care if other people log into.
I've used one login before. That was, I think, the one I had for the.
I mean, they'll do the same thing.
Anyway, so please keep watching on Twitch. Keep giving us those subs and a little more show bucks, because we definitely need it. Producer Dave needs to eat, and head over to Patreon as well. You can become a monthly subscriber like me. Actually, I need to up my subscription now that I can afford a little more. So please head over there and give us at least $10 a month. That would be great. That's like a freaking fancy pumpkin latte a month. I think you can spare it for this programming, for the amount of programming. How you stream 7 nights a week, right, producer Dave? For the most part?
Do. Yeah, the Media Winch does Monday night. So
right. So this network streams 7 nights a week. That's a lot of content, and most of it is actually pretty fabulous and funny as shit. So I think a couple of $10 is worth it. And that's all I got for this one.
So what do we got for leading off?
Poop.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Omicron variant known as BA2 has been detected in the Bay Area. Health experts say the variant is highly transmissible, but has not caused a surge in hospitalizations. KPIX5's Len Ramirez has more from San Jose.
Well, this new version of the virus shows up at a time when people are just really ready to move on from the pandemic, but this shows that it's not over.
Routine testing of the wastewater in Santa Clara County shows overall cases of COVID-19 continue to drop, but they also show the new Omicron variant BA2 is here, most notably in the Palo Alto and Gilroy areas.
We see that BA.2 is likely replacing BA.1, the original Omicron that was was infecting the population here.
This news comes at a time when 2-year-old protections such as mask mandates are being lifted and people are gathering again, often indoors.
Feels back to normal.
That's a concern for health officials because BA2 is even more transmissible than previous variants.
It is at least 30% more transmissible, if not more, up to 50%. It means that whatever strategies you've worked or used before to help escape being infected may not work with BA2.
But Dr. Peter Chin Hong says the data shows that so far, BA2 is not causing people to get sicker and need hospitalizations. And he says vaccines are proving to be effective against it.
Regardless of when you got your vaccines, if you've gotten 2 or more, depending on your age group, you would be protected against serious disease, hospitalization, and death.
Presence of the variant in wastewater is usually 2 weeks ahead of when clinical cases would show up, so the full impact of the variant is yet to come as the pandemic enters its 3rd year.
It's definitely not over. We would probably see cases go up and down over time until it becomes more in the background, but we're not there yet.
In San Jose, Len Ramirez, KPIX5.
We'll see.
Yes. BA2 has come to Willow Glen.
That's funny. They could have gone to Gilroy, but that would have been inconvenient.
Right, especially since they pointed out that Pali and Gilroy were, the hotspots for BA2. But that's the northernmost and southernmost part of the county, right? So, and from San Jose is NBC Bay Area headquarters. I'm sure equidistant and fucked. So let's just go to Willow Glen and get some shots of people on the street. It looks like Palo Alto, right? They didn't say where they were.
Yeah, it was totally. I could tell. I knew it was Willow Glen because it said Glen in the background.
Right. Oh yeah. The that was the table, right?
It's like how in San Francisco, no matter what they're talking about, they're always in the Castro.
Right.
They're always like, let's just go to the nicest fucking neighborhood and tell everybody the news so that we can go have a nice lunch after.
Yeah, well, that, and they can feel safe, being on the street reporting, right? Like they don't have to feel in danger being on the sidewalk and doing their little stand-up reporting job.
Like on the mean streets of Gilroy?
Yeah, well, and it's far, that's a distance thing. That's absolutely a distance thing. But as far as like also getting the person on the street, right? The exuberant person on the street, I think the Castro's are a pretty good spot for that. Getting a talkative person, I would imagine. There's some catty people out there I've met in the Castro, more so than any other area of San Francisco. So, but yeah, Willow Glen also the same way. Very saucy area. But moral of the story, real quick before we move on to winners and losers, vaccines work. Dr. Peter Chen pointed that out. Vaccines work. Keep getting vaxxed. It's worth it. You will either not get COVID or you'll get it so mildly that you won't even notice that you had it. So there you go. That's my moral of the story for tonight.
And please, if you're not going to wear a mask anywhere else, just put the fucking thing on at the grocery store for fuck's sake.
I did that today. And I can't say that more than 50% of people were masked up, but a lot of people were still masked up. I was impressed, but not anywhere near majority.
I'm not asking you to mask up at the club or whatever, but if you're going to be around somebody else's fucking tomatoes, just put the fucking mask on.
Yeah, if you're touching my produce, right? Like I saw you feeling that tomato. That one looks good to me. It may not be what you're looking for, but that's what I'm looking for, right? That heirloom tomato with just the right amount of firmness, right? So it's going to last a day before you make it, right? Before you cook it in something, you can keep it on the counter and it'll be perfect right when you're going to cook it. That's what I'm looking for. Maybe you're not. You're looking for that squishy, like I'm going to cook this tonight, and you touch it and you're like, ooh, I don't want that hard one. Now your germy COVIDness is all over it. But as long as you're vaccinated and I'm vaccinated and we're both masked and I pick that up, I feel confident. I can put that in my basket and go home and be safe. So get your vaccinations, wear your masks. It's endemic time, baby. Let's learn to live with it.
So it turns out Hawaii is a dangerous place. And I have some thoughts on this story, by the way.
I thought you would. This is something that the good wife and I watch a lot of Hawaii 5-0, the reboot. And this is something we say all the time because it's just amazing. They had 10 seasons of this show. So that must have been like 260 some odd episodes of just crazy criminal shit happening in Hawaii that necessitated like automatic weapons and explosions. So we'd always say, Hawaii is a very dangerous place. Who knew? Anyway, it's true.
Ronald Wu and Mohammed Dowdy's recent vacation in Hawaii was something they'll remember forever, and not just because of the scuba diving. On one of their nights out, they met 23-year-old Juan Tejedor Barron. He's the one on the right in this photo. They liked him immediately.
Since I'm in Hawaii and I want to make friends, and he seems very nice, actually.
We just danced with him. We drank.
They became fast friends, going to brunch and hanging out at the beach. On the third day, Tejedor Barron invited them over to what he told them was his house in an exclusive Honolulu neighborhood.
We didn't notice anything except that there's like a bar on the bedrooms, like you can just enter easily. And I was observing everything. We went to the balcony of the house.
Less than a week after they left, that house became a crime scene. Honolulu police discovered the body of 73-year-old Gary Ruby, the homeowner, in a bathtub covered with concrete. Their new friend, Juan Tejedor Barron, was wanted for murder. Ronald and Mohammed were already back in the Bay Area, but another friend who had joined them in Hawaii decided to stay an extra week with Tejedor Barron. Police initially believed he was involved in the crime. He's on security camera video walking around Honolulu with Juan Tejedor Barron. Ronald and Mohammed say they're sure he had nothing to do with the murder.
He's a very close friend of mine, and I even invited him to Hawaii and paid for the trip.
Meanwhile, Tejedor Barron fled Hawaii and was arrested in Anaheim, hiding under a seat on a Greyhound bus bound for Mexico. Juan Tejedor Barron is still in custody in Los Angeles. He's awaiting a hearing before getting sent to Honolulu to face murder charges. Ronald and Mohammed say they still cannot believe that they spent so much time with a man who is now accused of a gruesome crime.
I believe he's a psycho killer because who would stay in that place for more than weeks with a dead body there?
And casually invite people over and casually hang out with everyone as if nothing happened.
In San Francisco, Sergio Quintana, NBC, Bay Area News.
So,
yes. Thoughts? You have them.
We met a guy. We thought he was hot. Probably had a threesome with him. Then we left our friend to continue with the escapade there. All this is fine, but the fucking news kind of buried the lead. The news kind of buried like the fun part of the story. Like it makes the guy a better serial killer if he's like the charming type who like basically wooed 3 tourists while they were visiting. You know what I'm saying? That's a better story.
Yeah, it's me. It's very interesting, right? Like, okay, so he's obviously a psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? And he's got this old man in the freezer right at this house, or on just
the bathtub ice, under like concrete or some shit,
right? And yet, like he has these hotties over to the house and has a little party time, orgy time, good times, and doesn't kill those guys. Like that, they're just there for fun. Like that's a pretty interesting serial killer. Maybe he just has a fetish for like the old white dudes. And this is just for fun, but it's just that's sketch.
I mean, I don't want to speculate too much, but if I were to speculate too much, I'd guess that the older guy is maybe a former partner of his.
Probably sugar daddy, maybe like
some sort of situation like that.
Did they explain? I don't know if I forget. Did they explain whose house it was? Did they say
it was the murder victim?
Oh, okay, yeah. So that makes sense. Maybe he was like sugar daddy, and young hottie was hanging out and living at the house, and either young hottie got tired of old daddy, or old daddy got tired of young hottie, and things were on the outs and outs, and young hottie has a little hot temper and maybe killed old daddy and concreted him into the tub. Very interesting. We have a tub actually at our house that would work really well for this. But anyway, that's long. We'll talk about that some other time, producer Dave. Next time you want to have a threesome. Yeah, so that's very interesting. But I would be thanking my lucky stars if I were these guys from the Bay who got out of there in one piece and just had a nice threesome out of it.
On the other hand, if there was 3 of them, maybe dude had thought about it or something, but he was like, you know what, there's 3 of these guys and I'm not going to be able to pull this off.
Yeah, I mean, I had to imagine if you're ready to kill like your sugar daddy and cement him into the tub, you're probably conniving enough to think about that plan, like think a couple steps ahead, right? Play some chess and be like, So I imagine he probably just wanted to have some fun with these dudes, and that was it. And he wasn't interested in whacking them.
And I think even if he wanted to, just the fact that there was 3 of them would have made it like very difficult.
Yeah, and that also leads me to believe he's not a serial killer, right? He doesn't have a pattern. He's not a compulsive murderer. I imagine he just had beef with this one dude for whatever reason and killed them and took their nice house in Hawaii. I mean, what the hell? I mean, murders have been committed for a lot less than that.
Right. And I mean, that's just a guess too. There could be any number of other things going on. He could have been, if it was a wealthy neighborhood, the guy could have had staff, and this young guy could have just been one of the staff.
Correct. Right. Or a runner, or like an errand boy, quote unquote, errand
personal assistant.
Personal assistant. There you go. So get my malasadas and my laundry. God, that would be fucking awesome. Have a hot young stud to like go get me some malasadas at Leonard's.
You're like, I'm not even into men, but just the optics of it.
I'm just chilling on the North Shore on the beach. Like, go take an hour and a half and go get me some malasadas from Leonard's and bring them back, and we can split them. That's all I ask. That's a really good life. I mean, the good wife would be down with that, I think. So, anyway, moving on. So Hawaii is a dangerous place, Producer Dave, but Campbell's fucking dangerous too.
Well, this evening, South Bay firefighters are keeping a close eye on the scene of yesterday's big office building fire in Campbell. KPIX5's Max Darrow reports on what they'll likely be out there doing for the next few days.
More than a day after this fire ignited, there are fire crews still on scene. The building's still smoldering, and hotspots have popped up all throughout the day.
The guy's name for podcast listeners is Max Darrow, and he looks exactly like what you think Max Darrow looks like.
With help from a construction crew and some from the clouds, Santa Clara County firefighters are in the final stages of putting out a fire that engulfed a vacant 72,000 square foot office building in Campbell on Friday morning.
They're pulling down the unsecured walls of the building so we can get in there and try to get further into that building with our hose lines to
Can you pause for a second?
Complete extinguishment of this fire.
Everyone out there, the firefighter's name is Jason Filarski, and he actually looks exactly like what you would think a Jason Filarski would look like. Sorry.
Those who live around here were fascinated by the situation.
I was working at that one building over there this morning, and when I rolled through at 6 o'clock, it was still smoldering, little pieces are on fire.
That's unbelievable, the amount of damage and destruction that's done.
Many people took pictures and videos. Strangers shared their bewilderment, and some couldn't do anything but stare.
Oh my, just horrible damage. I mean, it's just so surprising that
all these San Jose residents.
That's great.
I thought this was in Campbell.
We've worked with Fish and Game for the water runoff into the creeks, and so far everything's been okay.
Naturally, everyone is curious as to what started this fire. Some people have their theories.
Insurance.
Continue to work through
if it was empty.
Filarski says it's still too early to know exactly what caused the fire. However, they do know the fire grew rapidly, and it may have started in the back of the building.
We're going to bring in the arson task force so we can try to see if there's any accelerants, anything else used.
Filarski says they contained the fire overnight, but there's still a lot of work left to do.
Just due to the magnitude of the size of this structure, it's going to take a while.
The deputy fire chief says fire crews will likely be here for the next couple of days until this fire is fully extinguished. In Campbell, Max Darrow, KPIX5.
More than 100 firefighters from various agencies responded to that fire. Nobody got hurt.
Well, that's good. How many hours do you think Max Darrow works on that hairstyle before he goes on?
He must have people.
He has. Honestly, they don't really have people anymore. Like, I bet you these guys, they have to go out and do their own camera. Like, they set up a camera and do the recording straight to it. So he might have to do it himself. I don't know, but he might pay extra for people. Maybe he pays out of pocket.
His hair did look pretty great.
It looks fabulous. I mean, it's just this coiffure. Anyway, so are you concerned about arson or the homeless maybe burning shit down in Campbell?
Media Wench brought up a place in Fremont called Connolly's. There was the furniture place in Fremont that just about every 5 years would burn down. And everybody was pretty sure that it was for insurance because like they'd build up a bunch of like old stock or whatever over the course of 5 years. Maybe they couldn't sell. And then all of a sudden it would burn down and they'd sell all their damaged stock at like a loss, but write it off. And now they had all this great new furniture they weren't, they weren't sitting on a bunch of old stock anymore because their fucking shit kept burning down. And So we feel like this might have been a Connolly's job because it was an empty, like vacant office building. We don't know though. We don't know. I mean, there could be any number of reasons that it caught on fire.
I mean, the burning it down for insurance money is the obvious reason, and really, what's that called? Occam's razor, or the simplest solution is usually the correct one.
People get that wrong. It's not always the simplest. It's the solution which requires the fewest number of assumptions.
Oh, there you go. I like that. I like that better, actually. What you said. I'm not going to try and repeat it because I'm already drunk and a little stoned. Okay. Anyway. So long story short, moral of the story, watch out, especially on Dell Avenue. If you're out there walking around vacant properties, you might get burned down before they have a chance to redevelop the entire area, which is really what's in the general plan now. So be ready for the Dell Avenue specific plan. People of Campbell, get tuned into your city council. All right. Well, it's Campbell established, dangerous place, especially because producer Dave is adjacent somewhere.
In the zone.
In the zone, right?
In the zone.
And I did like how all those San Jose residents were commenting on that story. This must have been like, people on their walk or something. No, it's not too far from San Jose.
I know the area. It's like all it's all offices.
Intermixed kind of.
It's all offices. Weirdness. So.
Oh right, okay, so, I get it.
Like, the majority of people would probably be from San Jose that are working at those jobs, just because San Jose's got a much bigger population than Campbell,
Good point. And they're not going to be listed as like so-and-so employee, right? Like Kaiser employee or something. Okay. Yes, there's a Kaiser over there I go to. All right. Well, so Campbell, dangerous place. Hawaii, very, very dangerous. San Jose, maybe not so dangerous anymore. I don't know. Let's find out.
As of tonight, San Jose has recorded just 3 homicides this year, and not a single one involved a gun. That's a dramatic drop in killings for the Bay Area's largest city, and police say it didn't happen by accident. As NBC Bay Area's Damian Trujillo explains, San Jose police believe their efforts to get guns off the streets are paying off.
2 of the 3 deadly stabbings this year involved domestic disputes. Police say their officers are out there every day getting illegal guns off the streets, and it's paying off. The pictures posted on social media this year by San Jose police may look like a seller's table at a gun show. Dozens upon dozens of guns, many of them illegal, taken off the streets by cops.
We have officers going out there every day, approximately 200 officers across 3 shifts. If people pay attention to our social media, they'll see the vast amounts of firearms that are being taken off our city streets.
Police believe that's one of the biggest reasons San Jose has not had a gun-related homicide this year, and a total of only 3 homicides, all stabbings so far this year. Many of the seized weapons are what are called ghost guns, homemade guns with no serial numbers, making them nearly impossible to track.
How do you prevent violent gun crime? By being proactive, by going out there and removing these guns off our streets before they're able to be used in a crime, in a shooting, in a robbery.
The news is what the president of the Plata Arroyo Neighborhood Association has been begging for in a neighborhood where gunfire is not rare.
I'm glad the gun violence is not happening, and hopefully it's part of it is because our police are a little bit more aware and delivering the impact that we need them to, finding these weapons and getting them off the street.
Yanni Garza spent half his life challenging police tactics. Now he applauds these latest results, saying crime fighting like this has to involve partnerships with the community.
It's more important than people really think. It's not just an officer showing up at your neighborhood meeting and having a slice of pizza. It's actually getting to know your families.
Police realize the busy summer months are still ahead, but they vow to keep up their proactive enforcement, aggressively going after guns. In San Jose, Damian Trujillo, NBC Bay Area News.
So I like this on just for one thing. When people on the internet are like, all these dangerous, crime-ridden Democrat cities, I'm like, hey, San Jose is run by Democrats, and there have been 3 fucking murders all year, and it's like it's not like 10 people live here,
2 of them tied to domestic violence, which is actually the real tragedy here. We need to do something more about that, but that's a whole separate down ballot. I tend to agree with you there, and people forget San Jose is still we're the 10th largest city in the country. We have a lot of people here, and anytime you put a lot of people into any sort of circumstance, like a dense circumstance like ourselves, we're maybe because we're not so dense, it helps because we're not so packed together, and we are kind of segregated in a way. Maybe that helps, to be honest with you. But yeah, we tend to be a safer city, a safer community anyway. We do have that pastoral agricultural background. We look out for each other, that small town kind of background, right? No matter where you're coming from. So in general, I don't think we need as many police and as much heavy-handed policing to really keep the peace here. So it's good. This is good to hear. I don't know that it means anything. I mean, you need a lot more data than a few months to really make a determination, but it's good to see. It's a good trend. I think there are less, you're going to have less murders when people are just getting out less, to be honest with you. And that's what we've been doing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I just wonder, up in Shasta, like there have to have been more than 3 fucking murders, like already by this time, and it's like, there's a lot more fucking people here.
Yeah, one would think. But just if you're interested in seeing some of the results of what the PD is doing, do check out their social media, their Twitter and I think they have Insta, but their Twitter is definitely filled with pictures of all the confiscated shit that they come across, whether it's guns or it's cannabis, lots and lots and lots of cannabis sometimes, or other drugs, and fentanyl and prescription drugs that they take off the street. So if you're into that kind of shit, if that's kind of like your porn, there's definitely pictures for you on the SJPD Twitter account. And then give it up to Danny Garza, man. That guy is a legend when it comes to community activism. So much so that this clip reminded me I was making dinner when this clip came on originally. And I was in the other room. This clip was on in the other room. I couldn't see it. I heard Danny Garza's voice, and I said to the good wife, "That's Danny Garza, right?" "Yep, that's him." Because he's just that recognizable. So props to you, Danny Garza, for being so persistent and persevering, and to all the activists out there for persevering. Good things do happen.
They put out that list every year of like the 10 safest cities in the United States, and San Jose is always on the list.
Mm-hmm. Well, we used to be number 1. That's the thing. We used to be like number 1 on the FBI's 10 or safest big cities list, right? And that was always our thing. It was like, we're number 1, we're the safest big city in America. And then we lost that. We went down to like number 3.
But the cities in front of it were literally a city that borders San Jose, Sunnyvale,
right,
and then Fremont.
Right. It was just sad to say, we're third. We're the third safest big city in America because of some random metric anyway, right? Certain number of crimes, basically.
What was going on that Sunnyvale was more dangerous than San Jose? That's what I want to know.
It's just numbers. It's just based number. It's crimes per head.
It may have been that before maybe Sunnyvale, their population wasn't enough, and they hit a certain amount of people, and they ended up on the list because their population increased.
Yeah, they're in the 100. 100. They're the second largest city in Santa Clara County. Fremont is the largest city, or one of the largest cities in Alameda County. Not as big as some others, but Sunnyvale is the second largest behind San Jose in Santa Clara County now. Well over 100,000 people. So much so that they districted their elections.
I live in the densest.
Yeah, and so much so that Campbell has districted its elections too. Like, honestly, Producer Dave, if you want to run, I'm ready.
Absolutely not.
2,000 votes. That's all we need, and we can get you on the city council.
Absolutely not.
No? All right. Well, one day we can dream. Maybe you and me, we find someone and we run them. We run their campaign.
Oh, my upstairs neighbor, she's perfect.
Can we do
perfect.
It? Can we do it? I love projects.
If I went up there and told her she needs to run for city council, she'd be like, one of us now has to move.
Right.
She's like, listen, I know what you do, but now one of us has to move.
Just tell her all the great things she can have an influence on, like housing and land use and special use permits for alcohol and staying open late and parties and all sorts of shit. There's amazing shit to be done in the city council, especially in a small city like Campbell, where there's only 5 council members. That means you only have to get 2 other people to agree with you on something. to get something done, right? And in that kind of scenario, you could promise them to do something for them, do them a solid on some innocuous shit that you don't really care about, as long as you get their vote on something else. And if you can get 2 more votes on any given Tuesday or Wednesday, you can do whatever you want. It's so beautiful.
The city's kind of a dick. A guy I know, he's since moved to Italy, but it's not my friend who owns restaurants. He was a part owner of a restaurant, and he went to the city council and he's like, hey, we have this, office space above, but it's like an open, floor plan office. And we were thinking of doing entertainment up there. What do we have to do that? And the city, like a bunch of assholes, gave him a list of stuff to do. He started doing the stuff. Then when he got most of the way done with the stuff, he went to the city for the permit for the amplified sound and the fucking shit. They told him no.
No.
This city's a dick.
So perfect. No, that's not just Campbell. That's cities.
What a dick move, though. Like a bunch of us, like a bunch of people that go out, went to the city council meeting to be like, hey, this is a person we know who would do a good job at this. If you would have just said no to begin with, that would have been cool, but you just wasted all this guy's money.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But that happens way too often. And that's the kind of shit, like when they talk about streamlining shit, right? And making shit easier, it's not about necessarily, just, turning a blind eye to bullshit, right? And to true malfeasance. It's really about helping businesses thrive, like small business owners and the little guy, gal, whatever, thrive. The little person, the mom and pop, the people who are in our community and are trying to just make something cool for our community and also make a living off of it. Like who could blame them? Like the Dan Vottos of the world, right? Like how could you make Dan Votto jump through all sorts of fucking crazy hoops when the guy is like doing everything he can just to provide a space for us and for everyone to come together and enjoy art and music, right? So if you're running for city public office, and if you're out there and you want to get into public office locally, don't use it as some sort of like springboard to get to some other office. Like think about some shit that you can do to help people, because you have so much opportunity to help people right now, like immediately, because everything you do is so local. So think about that and act locally.
The dude was going to do like nightclub night on Saturday, but the rest of the night was going to be like jazz bands. He was going to cut off alcohol at 11:30 and close the place at 12:30. Like he was just like he was just, everything he was going to do was like totally on the up and up, not having people out too late. And they were just like, nope. The inside of the place, it was starting to look beautiful too.
Yep. It's been happening in San Jose too. It's like I hear it crop up all the time where city policies, and deadlines come up. And so notices go out, like you have to close your outdoor patio, right? And because of the pandemic, we've been letting people open their shit on sidewalks and on the street, right? But you have to close that shit now. I'm sorry. It's the time that's been preordained, right? But it's that sort of bureaucratic bullshit. And once you get actual people into the room, like the elected representatives and the business owners into a room together, they can actually work all this shit out. It's just it's the bureaucracy of government that needs to like take a chill pill and like learn to relax and try to just take a nice comfortable shit sometimes instead of trying to squeeze out every last drop.
So one more funny one. A dude I know runs like a arcade sort of restaurant on the Ave. And
I think I can think of the one you're thinking of.
Yeah. Well, he's part owner of it. They also have one in downtown San Jose.
Right.
And I swear to you, the city told him that if he wanted to have a DJ in there, the DJ had to bring their own speakers, because if he provided like even just 2 like, JBL Pro speakers, he had to apply for all these fucking permits, but that he could do the exact same thing if the DJ brought the speakers without having to get these permits. And so he's like, I'm just not having DJs in here because I feel like this is a trap. He's like, what if the DJ is playing Friday and Saturday and then leaves his speakers here, and then I get fucking fried for that?
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to be careful with the letter and the intent of the law. That's all I can say.
Which is really dumb, because like since there's no DJs in there, he has pro grade speakers inside of there. They're just not hooked up to anybody's turntables. So it's like what the fuck?
Yeah, It's aggravating. It's rules on top of rules that need to be, weeded out, right? Like there's this like systemic bullshit that needs to be weeded out in policy making. And unfortunately, we're kind of like behind the 8 ball, or we're behind the curve in that these things come up and we're sort of reacting case to case, right? We're not actually solving the root underlying problem. And it's not because we don't want to, it's more because we just don't have the time, because we're responding constantly in public service, right? They're responding constantly to these issues that come up, right, on a case by case basis. So something has to be done to like stop the presses and be able to really make systemic change. So we'll see. But San Jose, not so safe. Maybe from time to time, but mostly safe. Mostly safe.
And our next story is about how San Francisco is safe unless you're black and the police see you.
Yes. I mean, that's everywhere, but San Francisco, apparently there's a report about it now, so there's actual factual evidence.
It's 5:32 right now, and new this morning, San Francisco police under the microscope with newly released data on stops and searches. The data shows different frequency rates depending on your race. Today in the Bay, Sierra Johnson joins us live in San Francisco. And Sierra, the chief of police is getting ready to talk about some of these new findings.
Good morning, Lori. Yeah, that's exactly right. The chief of police, will present this data, nearly 20 pages worth of a presentation to the Board of Supervisors. That happens later today. And in that presentation, he discusses everything from the stops and searches to reform efforts. So one of the focuses in this report was just involved the stop and searches conducted by SFPD. Now, if you're taking a look at your screen, this graph breaks down the interactions by race. And based on this data, black people were both stopped and searched more often than their white and Hispanic counterparts. This graph breaks down the search by race per 1,000 individuals, and you can see year over year, blacks were 10 times as likely to be searched than white people and 4 times as likely to be searched than Hispanics. So what other data is in this report? Well, the report highlights that use of force instances has dropped nearly 60% over the last 6 years, from around 950 instances in the fourth quarter of 2016 to around 390 in the last quarter of 2021. And police stops of black people have fallen over the last 3 years. The report also highlights where the department stands in terms of their anti-bias goals. The Department of Justice presented the agency with reform recommendations. This report provides an update that 90% of those goals have been met. And the SF Chronicle spoke with SFPD Chief Bill Scott ahead of today's presentation. He commented that the agency's goal was to determine next steps, telling the Chronicle, quote, "So the question is, where do we go from here?" And that's really where a lot of the work lies ahead. So that Board of Supervisors meeting is slated to begin at 2. I took a look at that agenda this morning, and this item doesn't actually hit on the agenda until around 3 p.m. So the presentation is slated for 3. That meeting, though, begins at 2. So we will, of course, continue to follow what comes out of that supervisors meeting and their response to this presentation. We're live in San Francisco. Sierra Johnson for Today in the Bay.
Poor Sierra Johnson, by the way, having to stand up for all black people in that in that clip and represent the entire African American community. So thank you, Sarah, for your work. And by the way, the graph that they had was really hard to understand. I really I hate that when they fucking have graphs that like black versus white, black versus Hispanic, Hispanic versus white. Okay, like wait, I don't understand what this graph is telling me. And then finally, by the end of what she was saying, she told me that it was the ratio, right, of stops, black versus white, Hispanic versus black, that kind of thing.
So one of the things that's going on here, then the backdrop of this is the recall of Chesa Boudin, where Chesa Boudin seems to be trying to do something about these disparities at the prosecution level.
Yes. Because he's being recalled. There's an attempt to recall him because some folks don't like that, right? They like things the way that they are.
So I did like that in the last few years the use of force has gone down dramatically. That's probably good overall.
Yeah, I would say so. So there's interesting numbers there, just like there's interesting numbers in San Jose. But again, I don't know how much of it's tied to the pandemic and sort of the way that our culture has sort of evolved to the point where we're not really like interacting as much, at least not as often, perhaps, and you're not throwing a lot of people, diverse people together in the same space for prolonged periods of time. I think that causes a lot of disruption and crimes, if you will. But anyway, I don't know how much that is the cause, but yeah, in general, seems like we're doing okay in some areas. I felt people have, I think, had a little bit more, maybe a touch more empathy. They're still idiots. They're still idiots. Like there's assholes and idiots no matter what, and there are always going to be assholes and idiots. But I think that there has been a touch more empathy in general. I'll give people that much. Maybe that's too much to give them.
All right. So apparently bars are giving out test strips so that people can put it in their drink and make sure nobody's putting fentanyl in their drink. That's a bad sign.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a really good idea to be doing this, I guess, but it's a really bad sign that you have to do this. So let's find out more.
So in the past few weeks, after taking cocaine they didn't realize had been laced with fentanyl. And the health department reports nearly 500 deadly fentanyl overdoses last year. Now, one Bay Area nonprofit is looking for ways to make it easy for recreational drug users to test and see if they're about to ingest something potentially deadly. KPIX5's Andrea Borba has details.
Bay Area nonprofit FentCheck spends about $1 a piece on these fentanyl test strips and distributes them at bars, art galleries, and tattoo parlors in the hopes of slowing the overdose crisis even a little. Just like the jars of condoms that emerged in bathrooms during the AIDS crisis, inside Temescal Brewing's bathrooms are jars of fentanyl test strips.
We see fentanyl in, of course, heroin, but it's not a heroin problem anymore. It's cocaine, it's ketamine, it's Molly, it's Xanax. Pressed pills are very easy to manufacture. And unless you're getting it from a pharmacy, you really should test every single time.
Co-founder of nonprofit FentCheck, Allison Heller, learned about fentanyl test strips while working in harm reduction in the Tenderloin.
People are still going to do drugs. The reality is that 100% of people who die don't make it to rehab. We just want to make sure that people survive the night.
She wanted to make sure that testing was available in places that people might be using or thinking about using.
What really moved us to do this was a member of our staff had a close associate who did lose their life to an overdose, and that was really, one of 1,000 stories, but something that did really spur some action amongst us.
The strips take just 5 minutes, 15 seconds to give a result, whether or not a drug like cocaine or Molly has traces of fentanyl. Her co-founder, Dean Schold, Chief Technology Officer of the Alameda Health System, demonstrates how it works.
We're going to pretend that this might be a little baggie of cocaine.
I was hoping this dude was just going to bust out a fucking 8-ball and be like, here's an 8-ball I just bought on the street. Let's see what's going on.
I think he's kind of doing it. Let's see.
A very small amount into the solution.
Yeah, you don't want to waste a lot of that cocaine. Jesus Christ.
You dip the strip into the solution and wait.
If that line is there, it's 2 lines, 2 thumbs up. There is no fentanyl in that solution.
FentCheck.
Oh, you just wasted all that cocaine.
In the Bay Area every other day to see if they need more strips.
FentCheck's coming by and restocking typically twice a week at this point because we see a lot of people picking up our test strip.
FentCheck is also providing bars with Narcan and training staff how to use it, just in case. In Oakland, Andrea Borba, KPIX5.
I mean, this is good.
Oh, absolutely. It's totally fine. I just, don't waste a lot of your cocaine testing it. That's try and get like a tiny little bit. Don't blow a whole like wad. Yeah, it's just generally fucked up that people would lace shit with fentanyl in the first place. It's fucked up that people would lace drugs with anything, but that's just the way it is, and they're not thinking about the end user, the human, element. They're just thinking about making money and keeping the, having a job and having something to do, right? That this is their job. They lace shit. So it's not being done, I don't think, necessarily by serial killers, but it is certainly a callous and very reckless. So yeah, test your shit. That's always good. Or maybe don't do the shit. That's another option. Maybe don't do the shit and stick to weed, and plants. Things you can like look at and be like, "Ooh, I see that there's some shit wrong with this plant."
So back in the day, during the rave scene, there was like a case in San Francisco where I don't know if it went to court or whatever, but the police were trying to say that the existence of the Dance Safe organization at the party was a reason to arrest the promoter for conspiracy to distribute drugs.
Nice.
Because Dance Safe was there making sure that people's pills weren't going to kill them.
Sure.
And that ended up leading to a city commission in San Francisco about nightlife. And it was part, encouraging nightlife, but part like harm reduction for drugs. And so it turns out that the police doing something stupid actually led to something good in San Francisco.
Imagine that.
I just wonder if having these kinds of test strips at places is going to be ammo for like regulators to try to shut down venues where, people use recreational drugs.
One would hope not, right? And please don't come after Molly. She's a good girl. She didn't do anything wrong. So don't come after Molly.
That sucks that people are putting that shit. Like, I don't know. I know why they're doing it. They're doing it to fucking make more money. But
absolutely. But it's like, God, like I like the thought of giving someone a drug that they didn't know they were getting in general is just so despicable, right? The thought of giving someone something they were not anticipating, it's like giving them a drug they're not intending to do any drugs at all, or giving them, one drug and saying it's one thing and it's really like laced with something else. That's the most fucked up shit you can do to someone, honestly. I mean, I've enjoyed every hallucinogenic, psychotropic experience for the most part that I've had, right?
But like sometimes it gets a little dicey, but all in all, it was a good experience.
Yeah, right. For the most part, I've learned some shit. I feel like I'm more well-rounded than the average person because I've done it. I've survived, but I've also survived because I knew what I was getting. I knew who I was getting it from. I trusted who I was getting it from, and I was confident that I wasn't getting something I wasn't asking for, and I haven't. To this time at least been taken on a ride, as it were. So that's a good thing. But the fact that this happens, like, I would never do that to anyone. I always even when I was just hanging out with someone who was like, oh yeah, I'd love to smoke some pot, I would tell them, hey, the stuff we smoke is it's very good weed. We're not talking about some dirt weed that you had in college. Like, this is some good stuff. I always warn people too, like, you're going to get really high, so just be prepared, and they can make the decision for themselves. Right. But to do this without, just doing it, that's just, man, so sketchy, especially to make a buck. How fucking savage.
So we're going to move on to San Francisco. Get your shit together. This is Saving San Francisco, episode 3, Big Angry Monsters. And it looks like they may be starting to get to the point, because we watched episode 1 of this thing and then we watched episode 2 and they were the same episode.
Well, let's kick back and see. There's episode 4 just got released yesterday too, so next week we'll hit up episode 4. But let's check this out.
When was the last time you just stared at the ocean?
Well, I'm doing it right now.
The waves. Some are small and harmless, others massive, even dangerous. But the interesting thing is that waves don't stay the same. Even those roaring giants, at one point, used to be gentle ripples. How we view a wave really depends on what point in time we meet it. And we often don't have the opportunity to know what that wave was like minutes or even seconds before.
Oh my God, I'm already tired of this shit.
Should that matter? Should we take the time to appreciate what it used to be?
This sweater.
Or just judge it purely by the threat that it poses right now?
That's not ominous.
They're monstrous. Big angry monsters. Big crazy, just gonna get you monsters.
Gonna get you monsters? What the fuck is this?
This guy calls into public comment in San Jose.
What we know about James Durgan is based on...
Oh, fuck, it's James Durgan again. God damn it.
Here's James tossing...
Hold on, I'm going to go get some caffeine. I'll be right back.
On a Thursday night in San Francisco. He's camping out in front of a closed restaurant and apartment building when two people arrive. There's no audio on the security camera, but you can see them talking. James looks sort of playful as he bounces from side to side. Just before, he appears to lunge for the door and repeatedly try to yank it open. About 2 minutes later, those same people hose James down, soaking him and all his stuff. James is accused of punching the man off camera and also faces hate crime charges based on what he yelled at that Asian family.
Uh-oh.
So how exactly does someone get this way? Homeless, drug addicted, violent. Who was he before? And what happened?
He was just like you, but God.
God, we went over this in episode 2, for fuck's sake.
2,000 miles across the country to the hometown, James Durgan.
Yeah, you already did this. We saw that exact picture of your plane.
Oh my God.
To really understand how Durgan got to where he is today,
we saw
his mom.
Needed to learn more about.
We saw the same fucking beach. Oh God, your documentary sucks.
Massachusetts. It's a fairly wealthy suburb just south of Boston, right on Cape Cod.
Oh, there's waves there too. Where did the waves come from? What were they doing a minute ago?
It's an American dream to grow up here.
Ann Antonellis is a Duxbury native.
The music.
She's been president of the town's business association for about 2 decades.
Living in Duxbury, you somewhat have to be well off because the house prices are very expensive. So
I see.
It's difficult because
on Cape Cod, you don't say.
Love. Sometimes the people can't stay.
Shocking.
Because of the expensiveness of the town.
Driving through Durgan's hometown, it doesn't take long for you to see a lot.
It looks just like Martha's Vineyard. Yeah, it's like old East Coast money.
Yeah, for sure. But God's like, fuck this shit, man. My brown ass could never afford this shit.
And beautiful beaches.
I could easily have spent my whole life there. I love it. I miss it so much.
These are different waves.
To the house of James Durgan's older brother. We actually spent weeks calling and writing him, but never heard back. So
imagine that he didn't want to
talk to us.
I don't want to. He doesn't want to.
Imagine that
he doesn't want to talk to me. So I'm going to go to this fucking super upscale part of Cape Cod and bother him.
I'm going to go to his house. I'm going to knock on his door. He didn't respond to my emails. So
this is like the only action this police department's seen in like 3 weeks, right?
Is EJ Durgan here?
Who are you?
Okay, so EJ Durgan, James's brother, wasn't home, but I did talk to EJ's wife. I told her I was a reporter, and as soon as I mentioned that I was doing a story on James Durgan, it seemed like her eyes started watering. She promised me that she would pass along.
She was like, this dog may not look, the dog was barking at me and shit. Like,
he's willing to talk to us.
Dog may not look vicious, but get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, like, it looked like I upset her.
We headed to James's old high school. It wasn't there. Turns out it was torn down and rebuilt a few years ago. But we heard they kept the old yearbooks at the town library.
There he is, James M. Durgan, class.
We saw that picture last week.
So he would have been about 19 years old here. Okay, so what's interesting?
But if he was in high school, no, he wouldn't have been.
Photos for Durgan's senior and freshman years of high school. But what would have been his junior and sophomore years, we found no mention of him.
That's when he was in some kind of a rehab.
Dr. Jay Cummings is a school superintendent in Southeast Massachusetts.
About 3,300 students, 6 schools.
He's a former principal, teacher, and he was college roommates with James Durgan. Back then, James went by Jimmy.
They knew he had time, stopped high school, gone to therapy.
Former roommate.
Finished and graduated.
To deal with some kind of addiction.
Correct, yep. And my impression was it was alcohol addiction. I have to say, in all the years that I lived with him and knew him really well, I never saw him even flirt with drinking, drugs. He had closed that door, it was sealed, and he was moving on in a great direction.
So didn't drink, didn't do drugs?
Never.
At all?
Never. And I can remember him saying that if he had a single drink, if he had any kind of drug use, that would almost open a door that would be incredibly powerful and incredibly negative for him and for everybody else. And that always stuck with me.
How would you describe that Jim Durgan?
Probably the most full of life I've ever seen in an individual before or since. He was the best friend I ever had. It was almost like a big brother to me.
The two met as freshmen at St. Anselm College, a small private Catholic school in Manchester, New Hampshire. James majored in literature.
I thought he was going to end up being an actor or a writer. There was nobody, I thought, that would be more successful.
Even as a college student, James was drawn to fame. In fact, he told stories about being friends with band members from Aerosmith.
Well, he was probably lying.
Back in 1988.
But actually, that's not impressive.
Pretty big deal. And I always thought he was full of it. Sure enough, one day out of the blue, up to our dorm, pulls up, I think it was a white Lamborghini. And out of it came one of the guitarists from Aerosmith.
That guy.
To our dorm room.
Nobody even knows his name.
Long conversation. Hung
He's got
out
a Lambo,
David
though.
Heather?
Jim Durgan.
Joe Perry?
And took off. And
Dolph Lundgren?
didn't even say I told you so.
Jay tells us he and James stayed close for years, even lived together after college. He says James ultimately moved to California to chase his dreams of being a writer, but wound up here.
And that's where it all went wrong.
Cattle farm, and now it's a school with 50-acre campus. We have about 400 students here. My name is Hovey Clark. I'm an environmental science teacher. I work at Woodside Priory School, and I was able to work with Jim Durgan here back probably about 20 years ago.
He says James Durgan was hired to live in the dorms of the school as part of the faculty. James taught creative writing to high school juniors and seniors. He also had a passion for physical fitness and coached track and cross country.
How would you describe him? Jim was instantly energetic, fun, bright, intense guy with a real spark of life.
The two became close friends while working here at the boarding school.
None of these are ever like, actually, he was kind of a piece of shit.
But James quit after about 3 years. It's unclear why.
This guy was a total asshole.
That is until about 6 years ago, when Hovey saw James camped out on a sidewalk in San Francisco.
I was aware of somebody, sitting against the storefront, and I heard him say, "Hovey," and it was a really jarring, unnerving moment to recognize that this was somebody that I had been close with.
His good friend and former teacher had become one of the city's more than 8,000 homeless.
Did you do anything to help him? Nah, fuck that.
No, of course not.
Since then, James has been arrested and released repeatedly for a range of crimes.
Yes, we've seen this.
Violence and drug use. At one point, he
violence, drug use, escaped.
Escaping from federal custody is some fucking ninja shit.
There were also
Seriously,
chance
good for him.
with Hovey.
Last time I saw Jim was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and a naked man in extremely good physical condition ran right in front of my car. And all of a sudden I realized, whoa, that was Jim Durgan.
In those years of teaching,
I've seen that penis before.
Ever think this might be his path?
Not in a million years, no.
So how did a charismatic, athletic, and well-respected English teacher
I like this, Helene.
You're convinced it all dates back to one particular day.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
So this goes back over 20 years ago. He said he went to a party somewhere, in California, and had been offered crack and took. From there, it seemed from afar, from 3,000 miles away, like an incredibly fast spiral into where we are now. And once that door opened,
this guy.
This was the same best friend who attended his wedding, even held his children. But today, much of their relationship lives in letters. James often writes from jail.
Jay Bird, I realize that we haven't spoken in a while. I'm sure at some point you must wonder, gosh, what must it be like to be in jail? It isn't easy, and I'm totally ready for this to be officially over with.
And Jay has written letters to the court.
Dear Judge Orrick,
on James' behalf.
Jim was definitely one of the funniest, most vibrant, creative, and kind people I have ever been in contact with in my life. He was one of the greatest people I had ever met.
And if you release him, whatever you do, don't send him to my house.
Do not remand him to my custody.
One of the greatest people you've ever met.
Yeah. And it's almost illogical, but yeah, I stand by that.
No, you're like friends. Like, it's not illogical at all, bro. My roommate's your boss.
The next morning.
Well, that's enough of that. We gotta keep going here. But again, like most of that was the same shit from the first two.
Yeah, I love all of my roommates, man. The people I've lived with, like, I trust them all with my life, frankly. Like, I wouldn't live with you if I didn't trust you. So that's why you step up for your friend, not because, whatever reasons he was given. Anyway, well, yeah, again, I'm still struggling with the title of this entire series, The Saving San Francisco. Like, we call this SF Get Your Shit Together because we originally started this because SF just has a lot of shit that they get together.
A lot of it in front of a cupcake shop.
Right. Literal shit, right, in front of an artisanal cupcake shop, or literal corruption where it comes to like the public works department, like having a nonprofit on the side that brings in donations that help them. Right. So there is all sorts of corruption like in any city, but it's not as though like this one guy can be used to represent like everything that's wrong with a city. And I think it's really unfortunate for him and for his family and for everyone involved that he is being used like in this way. And it's unfortunate and it's really disturbing. And I really hope a guy does not get another fucking award out of this because it's kind of revolting, to be honest with you. It's everything that's wrong with local news, but that's exactly why it's perfect for Downballot. And it's exactly why we should definitely watch episode 4 next week to see if
of course.
But if it's the same shit, right, for the first few minutes, we should just shut it off and admit to ourselves that these fucking assholes don't really care about providing any sort of substantive journalism. They just want to like win awards and go to fucking national NBC and be like Vicky Wynn and talk about the next big blender.
They could have done like a thing about him.
Sure, like it could have been a commentary on the mental health system and the lack of services for people, the lack of addiction services, the lack of social services for people that are available for people, and not just in San Francisco, everywhere. You could talk about that, but no, they're trying to make this. They need to stir up some sort of shit to make it worthwhile for people to tune in and to give them awards. And Big Guy can lean against the wall. Hey man, care about people. Hey, I care. I'm Big Guy Shaban. That's so insulting to me with his little sweater leaning against the wall. Like, I know what's going on, man.
So let's move on to Downballot and recall watch. And it looks like the mayor of Antioch, California, the way I'm reading this, was already facing recall and now got a DUI. Is that?
That's pretty much it. But let's let the story play for itself. It'll tell you everything you need to know.
Antioch residents working to recall Mayor Lamar Thorpe took to the streets today. As KPX5's Devin Feely reports, organizers hope the mayor's recent DUI arrest will convince more voters to oust him.
I was pulled over by the California Highway Patrol and cited for driving under the influence.
Criticism of Antioch Mayor Lamar Thorpe and his recent legal troubles has been swift and vocal.
I think it's appalling to sit there and say I only had a drink. What was dinner at midnight and then you left? That's more than one drink.
Mayor Thorpe broke the news of his own DUI arrest on Twitter Saturday morning, perhaps hoping to get ahead of the negative headlines and shape the narrative in the court of public opinion.
Although I never felt inhibited by the drink I had with my dinner, I'm deeply sorry for the lapse in judgment and I hope that you can forgive me.
The mayor's leadership was already in question before the DUI, and his administration's been besieged by a recall campaign aimed at ousting him from office. Critics claim he violated open meeting laws and say crime's only gotten worse under his watch.
He has done several things that violate city policy. He's done things, he's lied to some of us about his policies.
Like being black.
He has shown that he does not have a regard for citizens.
The mayor gave no indication that he plans to step down.
Being your mayor is one of the greatest honors of my life, and I am sorry if I have embarrassed you in any way.
Organizers of the recall have until a May 11th deadline to collect nearly 9,500 signatures to make it onto the ballot. Devin Feely, KPIX5.
I think that dude's going to get recalled.
Yeah, unfortunately, he just gave them a big, fat, wide opening and for Lori Ogorchak, who looks just like a Lori Ogorchak would, if you will, to gather enough signatures to get on the ballot and to get this guy recalled. That sucks. I don't know if he's a good or a bad mayor, but if it is literally one drink at dinner and he got pulled over and this is what happened. I mean, shame on him for letting that happen. But driving while black, is not necessarily a crime, but it is in America in some cases. So, yeah, I can't really tell why he was being recalled in the first place. Apparently, there's crime, and the open meeting policy, I guess, was somehow corrupted. I'm sure it's all bullshit, but this is just another example of giving them a reason. Don't give them a reason. Please don't give them a reason. Try to stay safe. Try not to fuck up. Don't make unforced errors, especially if you're a black politician. My God, you're just one step away from being recalled no matter what. So please be careful. That's all.
So our last story here on Down Ballot Watch before we get to end another thing is apparently Santa Clara County is facing sheriff staffing shortages, which I had to make sure to slow down to say.
Yes, yeah, 3 times fast. It might be because of the COVID, but we'll see.
Well, just days ago, the only sheriff Santa Clara County has known for more than 2 decades said she won't run again. Now we're learning the next sheriff in Santa Clara County will have his or her hands full. They will take over a department mired in controversies. And as NBC Bay Area's trio found out, on the verge of a possible staffing crisis.
One word I hear a lot is morale, or the lack of it here. Some deputies tell me privately that they're willing to lose their rank and move to another department than continue working here. They show up to work every day to protect the courtrooms and patrol the streets of Santa Clara County. But over the last couple of years, more and more Santa Clara County Sheriff's deputies have jumped ship, quitting the force, some say out of frustration.
It's pretty frightening. This is something that in my 20-year career I've never seen with the sheriff's office.
The president of the Deputy Sheriff's Association says just a couple years ago, the force had 530 deputies. He says that number is down to 370, with another 40 deputies in the process of interviewing for other departments right now. That includes lieutenants, who we're told will actually lose rank just to get out. And they blame the command staff.
We're jumping from one crisis to the next, and at the end of the day, it requires dedicated leadership to be laser focused on the issues at hand.
From the arrest of 2 top commanders, including the undersheriff, to a civil grand jury indictment of the sheriff herself, and accusations of mishandling the entire jail system, many deputies say they've had enough.
How vital is morale to the success of the department?
It's number one.
Eddie Garcia is now the police chief in Dallas. He faced a similar staffing and morale crisis when he took over the San Jose Police Department. Garcia says the new sheriff needs to be in lockstep with his or her deputies in order to serve the community and regain both the public trust and the department's trust.
You have to ensure that you are willing to go through walls for your men and women, and it's not the other way around.
The sheriff did not respond to our request for an interview today. She has denied the grand jury allegations against her. And when asked last week why she's retiring,
it's the public. It's not fair to the public to have this kind of a distraction.
Deputies say all they want is the shine back on the badge. Damian Trujillo, NBC Bay Area News.
In other words, I fucked up, and there's no way I could possibly get reelected now, so I'm stepping aside. That's the reading between the lines there.
Yeah, it's like this department has been incredibly corrupt. Why are people quitting? Like, not that, okay, it's a kind of corrupt that the officers don't like. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Although I will say that the DSA, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, is not necessarily the most reliable narrator normally. They definitely have an agenda of their own. But yeah, the sheriff here is on her way out, and it's not surprising. There's going to be some turmoil. There's going to be some turnover. I did like. It seems really straining to have to say his or her when it comes to the new sheriff. Why can't we say their? Is that so hard? Just their. It's very easy. It's very easy. Pronouns.
Well, they don't want to piss anybody off.
We can do this. We can fucking do this. We can make it easier for people to say shit. So try there if you're having struggle with, his or her, his, or what to put first. There. It's very easy. Interesting story, right? But we'll see what happens. But the sheriff is not running. That's the news, by the way. I don't know if we've covered that in Downballot. The current sheriff, Lori Smith, is not running for re-election. That's big news. Unfortunately, there's no one really of a high caliber running to replace her because no one knew if she was going to run or not. So the folks who might be decent just aren't involved in this election. We'll probably see them in 4 years when it comes up again. But for now, there's going to be some jackass in charge of the sheriff's department for the next 4 years. We'll see who it is.
Right on. Well, we're up against it, so we're going to get right into and another thing here. This is I don't know. I guess man versus storm drain.
Do it.
We are learning new details tonight about a man who was rescued from a storm drain in Antioch. Firefighters say he was down there for 2 days before yesterday's rescue. KTVU's Alyssa Harrington has been following this story. So, Alyssa, how did he get down there?
And Julie,
how does she know? She's in the studio.
Firefighters say they really don't know. They're also trying to determine where he entered that drainage system. They say he may have been crawling around through those pipes for quite some time. Now, they call these types of confined space rescues high risk and rare. And these firefighters you're about to see are specially trained.
This is the dramatic ending to a complex rescue that lasted 3.5 hours. A man was pulled from an underground sewer pipe. Firefighters say he may have been stuck down there for 2 days. This happened in Antioch Sunday, in an area of undeveloped land behind the grocery outlet on Buchanan Road. Jamie Lindsay said he was walking to the store when he heard shouting coming from a storm drain.
The noise started getting louder and louder, and all of this, I heard him screaming for help, and he asked me to help him. I ended up calling the police.
When firefighters arrived, they opened a utility hole and determined someone was trapped about 15 feet down.
We did hear some cries for help. We then upgraded to a full confined space heavy rescue response.
Emergency crews set up 2 rescue points. On one side, a backhoe was ready to dig in case it was needed to break open the pipe. On the other side, 4 firefighters entered the hole, linked together and hooked up to oxygen. They found the pipe was clogged with debris, everything from garbage to tree limbs.
It turns out that he had crawled some fairly long distance through a very small stormwater drain pipe. Had gotten to a point where that pipe was blocked by debris. He couldn't go forward, but he also couldn't go back because he was pretty much stuck.
Firefighters spent about an hour clearing the debris and finally reached the man. He was stuck in a section of pipe about 16 inches in diameter.
He was in a pipe that some people have described to me as about the diameter of a large pizza.
Just before 9 p.m., the man was pulled to the surface. He was put on a stretcher and taken away in an ambulance.
They could have blurred his face
Firefighters say
out.
he did not appear to have any injuries, and they don't know why he went down there in the first place.
Those places are not created for human occupation.
No shit.
Not safe.
Now, we don't know the name of the man, but we are told that he's in his 30s and he was taken to the hospital for evaluation. Live in the
seen his face.
Alyssa Harrington, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
That's really good. That man heard him calling for help and alerted the authorities there.
Well, that's like a Shawshank Redemption, kind of like dragging yourself through a tunnel of poop to be saved on the other end. Glad he's okay. I didn't need to see his face.
Yeah, they should have blurred his face out for sure. That's not, I don't know, that's not cool. If somebody, like, we don't know what happened. The guy could have just accidentally fallen in the pipe. We don't know. And so, like, don't show the guy's face. Don't.
Yeah. I didn't need to see him at all. Just see him being carted off, and he's going to, is he going to be okay? We'll find out, right? So yeah, kind of shady. We'll see, but yeah, it sucks to be like covered in poop. That's awful enough. But at least someone heard him. At least someone came to save him, and at least he gets to live to fight another day. So good on him, and good on the people that saved him, and good on you, listener, viewer, for tuning in tonight for another wonderful episode of Down Ballot.
Yep. Thanks for listening to Down Ballot, everybody. You can find this show on your favorite podcatcher. If you're watching live, hang out just a bit. If you just joined us on Facebook Live, you caught the tail end of Down Ballot. You can catch that every week at 7:30 p.m. Pacific on Twitch. This is Locals by Audible Smoke Signal, and we'll be back in 10 or so minutes with Local Love. Thanks again. Thanks for joining me again, Councilman.
Peace out.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing green. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. I pick the fuck up on stage, man, rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want to do, what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. We do what we want to do, what we want is to jam. So sit back.